There are several ways of looking at it. First, I think the most obvious way is the moral obligation to try and improve people's health, ensure that people are in good health. And the second one is that disease and ill health have a major economic cost to any country. In order to tackle the big burden of disease that our region, whether it's Kenya and also the whole of Africa, faces, we need to develop tools and intervention schemes that are able to tackle those diseases. And the way other places in the world have done that is by developing research. Kenya is a malaria endemic country. Large parts of the country do have malaria transmission, and the research that was done there was a major contributor to WHO taking up insecticide impregnated bed nets to become a key tool in fighting malaria. And we've actually seen a decline in malaria in Kenya now. And although I don't have the actual figures, that has translated into reduced number of children coming to hospitals, and clearly that obviously has both health improvement benefit, but also an economic benefit, because to treat malaria, to treat children when they're sick, obviously used to have a cost to it. Until now, the model of funding research in Africa has been very much paternalistic model, where the West or the donor countries or the funding agencies give money for research to happen in Africa, and often they don't only give money, the research itself is then carried out by foreign scientists. And so it does not leave the Africans empowered. In one sense, although it may, in some instances, answer the questions that we are interested in as Africa, it nonetheless does not leave us with the capacity to answer subsequent questions or to address other issues. So the concept of beyond aid is ensuring that the help or the support that we receive from our bilateral donors, from our funders, from funding agencies, leaves Africans with that capacity to develop further, to go beyond just the support that they are being given, so that they become owners and drivers of research and research agenda. One of the biggest challenges we're having in Africa in building capacity is that we do not have generations of people coming through to do research, and in fact not just in research, in many areas. So you have a group of people, older people who were trained some time back, some of them are now professors in universities, but they do not have the next generation coming through. And the problem, or the reason that is the case, is that there isn't enough exposure of the youth to research, so they do not consider research as a possible career option. And so for me, it's really important that the youth get an opportunity, whether it's by having chances to visit research centers, by having role models that are doing research. They get an opportunity to see research as something that could become their future career. The one thing which is quite important is to distinguish between health research and research for health. I must say, traditionally, when people talk about health research, there has been a medicalization of health research, so that people tend to think about health research in terms of medical terms. Whereas research for health is the recognition that there are so many other aspects that contribute to health, which are not just the biomedical aspects, not just the biology, not just the parasites. They are social determinants of health, health systems, poverty, agriculture, peace, displacement of people, inequities, gender issues, education, all contribute to health. And so rather than just think about health research, you think about research for health, because it's a more comprehensive approach to developing interventions for improving health in a country. as you know, it's very hard to attribute changes in a social system, or is it a political system, to a single activity. So in that sense, I wouldn't necessarily say it's just the forums that have changed. On the other hand, forums like this and others that have been hosted by other organizations have together contributed to a change in the research landscape. We've seen a much more increase in the interest of Africa on pushing ownership of research to Africa. So now I know, for example, some of the funders, there are a lot more funders attending here and who are ready to listen to what the African researchers are saying. They are ready to take in their approaches so that they are less likely to have a top-down approach, or there's an approach where they're saying, look, we're giving you the money, therefore you have to do this. We've seen quite an increase in the amount of funding that is being put forward for building capacity in Africa. We've also seen a lot more flexibility. So there are new programs that are more flexible, which are saying, you drive it from Africa, here's the money, just do what you want to do, what you want to see is results. Whereas before, it was a lot more, we want you to do this, here's the money, and unless you can do what you've just said, then you're really not worth our funding. It's been a tremendous forum, and I have enjoyed it very much. We have had very good discussions and deliberations, and although some of them are rehearsing things that have already been said in the past, as with all things, sometimes you require a number of things to be repeated several before enough momentum is gathered for action to happen. So I do not take it as a negative that sometimes you do go to forums that you hear the same thing being rehearsed.